Because of why I search the deep through endless nights, no time to sleep. The call inside I can't deny. I'll find the light because of why.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So, when you think of the world's most valuable currencies, what comes to mind? Probably the British pound, maybe the euro, right? Well, what if I told you that one of the strongest currencies on the planet comes from a tiny island nation and is worth almost $3? Today, we're going to dive into the fascinating story of the Bahraini Dinar. Yeah, you heard that right. It's kind of wild, isn't it? A single Bahraini Dinar, that's BHD for short, will get you about $2.65. That puts it right up there with the most expensive currencies in the world. So the big question is, how is that even possible? All right, check this out. This chart really lays it all out. You've got the Kuwaiti dinar at the very top, but look where the Bahraini dinar is. It's right there, number 2. It's blowing past other major currencies by a huge margin, and that gap between it and the good old US dollar, it's just massive. So really, what is going on here? And I know what you're thinking, because it's the most logical question, right? If their currency is worth so much more, then Bahrain's economy must be way more powerful than the USA's. Well, you might be surprised. As we're about to see, the world of currency is a lot more complicated than just simple math. So let's get right into it. How can a currency hold so much value without having, a giant superpower economy backing it up? Well, here's the answer. And it's actually pretty simple. It's not some secret sauce or hidden economic muscle. The dinar's high price tag is all thanks to a very deliberate, very specific economic policy called currency pegging. Okay, so what in the world is currency pegging, and how does that one policy make the dinar so ridiculously valuable? Okay, to put it simply, currency pegging is basically when a country decides to tie its currency's value to another, much more stable currency. Think of it like an anchor. So instead of letting its value float all over the place based on the market, it pegs it or locks it in to a set rate. And for a lot of countries, including Bahrain, the anchor they choose is the US dollar, just because it's seen as so stable around the world. Now, this isn't a magic bullet. It's a strategy with some major pros and cons. The biggest plus? Stability. For businesses, for foreign investors, knowing that the currency isn't going to swing wildly overnight, that takes a ton of risk off the table. But the downside is huge. The government has to constantly fight to defend the peg. And if the market pushes too hard and that peg breaks, oh man, that can cause some serious economic chaos, like runaway inflation. So you might be wondering, whose job is it to defend this peg? Well, that massive responsibility falls to the Central Bank of Bahrain. You can think of them as the guardians of that fixed rate. Their whole job is to keep the dinar parked at that $2.65 mark. And they do it by constantly managing their money, buying and selling currencies on the open market to keep everything perfectly balanced. It's a full-time job. But why go through all that trouble? It sounds like a lot of work. Why is that kind of stability so incredibly important for Bahrain's economy? Well, this chart right here pretty much says it all. Just look at Bahrain's stock exchange. Almost 60% of it is the financial sector. See, Bahrain has deliberately positioned itself as a major financial hub for the entire region. And if you're in the world of big money and high finance, predictability isn't just a nice to have, it is everything. And we're talking about a huge scale here, almost $250 billion in banking assets alone. Just try to imagine the chaos if the currency was jumping all over the place. So by pegging the dinar, Bahrain is basically sending up a giant flashing neon sign to global investors that says, hey, your money is safe and stable here. Okay, this brings us to what might be the single most important point of this whole explainer. We have to understand the huge difference between a valuable currency and a powerful one. Because believe me, they are not the same thing. So yeah, one for one, the Bahraini dinar is super valuable. A single dinar buys you a whole bunch of US dollars. But that one number tells you absolutely nothing about the actual size or the global influence of the economy that's backing it up. And this table just makes that difference impossible to ignore. Bahrain's entire banking sector, about $248 billion. That sounds like a lot, right? But then you look at the US economy. We're talking a GDP of around $25 trillion. It's not even in the same league. It's not even in the same universe. This really proves that the dinar's high value is a strategic choice, not a reflection of raw economic power. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. A high price tag on a currency is about creating stability, not keeping score of who has the most wealth. You know, a good way to think about it is that different countries basically hire their currencies for different jobs. Bahrain's dinar? Its job is stability, period. The US dollar? It floats freely because its job is to be the world's reserve currency, the one everybody uses for global trade. And then you have something like the Japanese yen, which is often kept at a lower value on purpose to make Japanese exports more competitive. See? It's not about which one is better. They just have totally different job descriptions. All right, let's bring it all home and make sure we've got the main idea locked in. So, the next time you're scrolling and you see a currency with a crazy high exchange rate, just think back to the Bahraini dinar. Its high value isn't an accident, and it's not a sign of a massive economy. It's a carefully crafted policy, a strategic choice made specifically to create a super stable and predictable environment for business. And all of this really leaves us with a pretty deep question to think about, doesn't it? When it comes to a nation's currency, what do you think is actually more important? Is it the rock-solid stability that Bahrain aims for, or is it the global power and influence that the US dollar has? Because as we've just seen, you can't really have both. They're totally different goals with their own sets of trade-offs. I'm genuinely curious what you think. Stability or power? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. And hey, if you had fun with this little deep dive and maybe learned something new, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe. It really does help us keep making more explainers just like this one. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We'll catch you in the next one.